Welcome to all of you. Thank you. I am thrilled to have you here today for this webinar on getting ahead of the curve, the nonprofit CEO playbook for leveraging AI in 2025. My name is Tynesha Coleman. I am the founder and CEO of Exalt Consulting. Over the next little bit of time, I am going to talk with you and we are going to explore how AI can empower nonprofit leaders like you to amplify your mission, to really optimize your resources and help you make smarter decisions as we head into 2025 because we all know it's a big year. So I want to start us off today just by talking a little bit about the crossroads that nonprofit organizations are facing. So the challenges that we face in this sector are some of the ones that have been forever, right? The number one thing being limited budgets or strained resources. That has been a challenge since the dawn of the nonprofit sector, right? But also, right now we're facing increasing demands, right? So increasing demands for services, for various things that we provide, depending on whatever your organization focuses on. But the other thing that we're facing now is evolving donor expectations. So the way donors are expecting nonprofits to use resources, to approach them for resources, and the level of efficiency that they are thinking about is really shifting as we move on. It's been shifting for quite some time. And all of this together really requires some innovative solutions. And to me, that's where AI comes in. AI is really transforming the way that organizations operate. We're always in the space in the nonprofit sector where we have to do more with less. And so AI is helping people do more with less. And I think the most important thing that AI can do is help amplify your mission-driven work. So I really think that that is important. And so as I think about the challenges that I see nonprofits facing in 2025, and these challenges are building on what have been faced since the pandemic and probably before, but really increasing now. There are three big challenges. There's a long list, but here's what I see as the top three. The first one being workforce shortages and retention issues. So in 2023, 74% of nonprofit organizations reported vacancies. And that is according to the 2023 Nonprofit Workforce Survey. So that's a really big number of organizations reporting vacancies in a lot of their service delivery areas is where those vacancies were. The second thing is financial instability and funding gaps. And this is the age-old problem, right? Problems with funding, problems securing funding, maintaining funding, seeking new funding. These are problems that have always existed, but will continue in 2025, especially as we have a more particular donor, right? And then the last one that I would say I think will be present in 2025 is really an increasing demand for services. So, there are many predictions about what the new administration in the United States are going to do and how this is going to impact our economy, how this is going to impact some of the most vulnerable populations. And a lot of those populations are the populations that we serve as nonprofit leaders. And so we're going to see, I think, an increasing demand for various services, various types of supports. And it's going to really drive home that do more with less, right? Or really be able to triage what you're able to do and for whom in the communities that you serve. And so the future of nonprofit leadership really demands this innovative thinking. And AI is really emerging as a game changer for decision making, for donor engagement, and for program delivery. Those are just three short ways that they are doing that, but there are other ways as well. So I actually skipped a slide, so let me go back here. I want to talk a little bit about myself, just introduce myself to you. I am Tynesha Coleman, as I said before. I am the founder and CEO of Exalt Consulting. I bring over 10 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, really specializing in organizational development, leadership development, DEI, and also executive coaching. I am a former assistant vice chancellor for diversity, inclusion, and development at Rutgers University, where I led strategic initiatives to foster inclusive environments and really advance the organizational growth. And my experience serving on nonprofit boards has really deepened my knowledge of the sector challenges and opportunities. I really have been doing this work for quite a while, and it is a passion of mine, which is why I, created this platform and would like to be talking with you about this today, because the way AI works is really impacting organizations at a significant scale. Just a little bit about us at Exalt Consulting. We are a boutique consultancy that is dedicated to empowering nonprofit organizations by addressing some critical challenges. And those include talent acquisition and reducing high turnover, succession planning, and then adapting to these new technological advancements. Our solutions are really tailored to equip leaders with the skills and strategies needed to drive long-term success while navigating today's evolving nonprofit landscape. Here's what I want you to expect for today. I'm going to share some insights, some actionable ones, some practical tips. There's not going to be a lot of jargon. There are plenty of groups, organizations, companies that are putting on webinars, putting on conferences with a lot of the jargon, with a lot more of the specific details about individual AI platforms. That is not what I want to do for you here today. I really want to help you understand how AI can fit into your strategy for your organizations. So it is my hope that you will walk away with ideas that you can start piloting right away, or at least in the very beginning of the new year. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So AI adoption in the nonprofit sector is really growing. So a recent Google.org survey found that over 50% of nonprofits are already using AI tools for tasks like proposal writing, grant applications, creating content. So those social media posts, those newsletters, using it for that. Also for data organization and analysis. We know nonprofits typically collect a lot of data, but one of the issues is that we don't often have the expertise to process the data, analyze it, and do the meaning making of the data that we have. And so a lot of organizations that are using it for that piece. And then this last piece that a lot of them are using it for is donor outreach and donor engagement. And this is really great progress, right? Over 50%. That's a significant number. Back in 2022 or early 2023, it was much lower. So we're seeing some movement, and I think that's great progress. But nonprofits are still using AI for basic productivity tasks, which I think is fine, right? Because it saves you time. But there are other opportunities that are bigger opportunities like program delivery and data-driven decision-making that can also help. So strategic initiatives are things that AI can help us with in the nonprofit sector, not just productivity, but productivity is a good starting place. So you might be asking yourself, why does this matter? Well, I mean, I'd argue that because nonprofits that embrace AI strategically will be in a position to unlock enormous potential. So it can free up staff time. AI can improve those donor relationships. It can provide insights that help us tackle the challenges that our organizations are facing more effectively. What I really want to drive home here, though, is that AI is not a passing trend. It's not a fad. It is really a transformational shift that we need to engage in right now. And as leaders in the nonprofit sector, who are better positioned to make sure that AI is being used in a good, responsible way for some of the most vulnerable populations, as often are the populations that you all are serving. So, of course, AI adoption is going to come with its challenges, just like everything else. Surveys are showing that the comfort levels with AI are very low amongst nonprofit organizations. So Giving Tuesday's data report a net comfort score of -16 in terms of a comfort with AI. And so what is holding nonprofits back? So those other nonprofits who are not using it or who are using it very minimally, if at all, what's holding them back? I would encapsulate the barriers that are holding them back into two buckets. The first bucket is the fear and discomfort bucket. So there are very real and valid concerns about data privacy with AI, and there are concerns, real and valid, about bias, right, in the algorithms of the AI. So, when you look at who's creating these algorithms, a lot of times the technical staff, the technical people that are creating these AI systems are older white men or white men in general. And so bias is a concern, right? And so knowing that bias is something that is possible with AI and with the algorithms, knowing that data privacy issues are there, we really need to think about how we ensure our use of AI and the AI that we choose to use aligns with our values of our organization and also avoids harm to vulnerable populations. So that fear and discomfort is very real when it comes to that. And then also under the fears and discomfort is the job displacement fears. So staff across the globe, not just in the nonprofit sector, but in the nonprofit sector as well, are really worried about what AI means for their roles. What does it mean for my job, right? So there's fear of engaging with it and, figuring out, hey, this may replace the things that I am doing. So there's a genuine fear there, and that needs to be addressed. And the second bucket that I really think the rest falls into in terms of the barrier are the resource gaps. So over 60% of nonprofits, right, say that they lack enough familiarity with AI. So they don't feel as familiar with it. And that the training and the funding for implementing AI is limited, right? As with resources are limited in general, so for AI, it's going to be limited as well. But here's the insight that I want you to take away from this piece. AI adoption is not just for for-profit organizations. It's not just for large organizations. And you may think that nonprofits that have data specialists or a tech specialist are more AI ready. And I think that there is some truth to that. But it is also true that many AI products are easy to use. And I really believe that the key is to start small and building that comfort, right? Addressing the discomfort that folks have. And you build that comfort through the low stakes experimentation, testing out different tools that solve simple everyday problems first before you embark on a larger scale AI initiative within your organization, or AI strategy, I should say. So I want to shift a little bit to talk about why nonprofits should embrace AI, why it's important, why does it matter? And at its core, AI saves time. That's typically the biggest thing when it comes to AI, is that it saves time. And time is the most valuable source for any nonprofit. So yes, obviously the funding dollars, right, is very important. But when it comes to being able to execute on your mission or your grant requirements or your strategic initiatives, quite often the issue that comes up is that we only have a certain amount of time. And so we can't do everything. We have to be really selective about what we can do because we have limited time. And so the time savings is something that is really going to be important. I wanted to share a quote by Nathan Chappell. This is a gentleman who works at Donor Search. And he says, AI will not replace nonprofits, but nonprofits that use AI will replace those that don't. So when you think about time being the most valuable resource, if you get that time savings, you're able to do more with your strategic activities, with your strategic initiatives on the relational components of your work, the other things that require much more intensive focus and much more people power. Saving time can help you execute on those things more effectively, and you're actually able to do more to achieve your mission. So in terms of the time savings, Typically, it's like automating some repetitive tasks, like donor thank you notes or grant proposal edits, right? You're not completely releasing everything to AI without any human oversight. Whenever you use AI, you want to have someone or a few someones evaluating things, looking at things, making sure things are accurate. But, creating some, at least a first pass at the donor thank you notes is going to save a huge amount of time. The next thing that is a really big benefit is enhanced donor engagement. So you can use AI to personalize outreach at scale, improving the relationships with donors of all sizes, not just your major donors. So historically, the major donors get more of a personalized touch. They get more information. They get a lot because they give a lot, right? And that's important. With AI, you're able to even use that for the smaller donors, right, who are giving a little bit less, but still can get that personalization and still keep them engaged as a donor, right? Or even reaching out to new donors as well. And the third benefit I would say is better data insights. So I mentioned earlier that nonprofits collect a ton of data, right? You have so much data about the populations that you serve, about all this information that you're doing. It's not always easy to know how to analyze that data and what can be done with it. But analyzing trends in different data that you already have, figuring out new data that you can collect and then how to analyze that can really help you make informed decisions about programs. You can also make informed decisions about donations and how you want to approach donors because you can analyze trends in the donor behavior that you have with your organization. And then the final benefit that I would say for AI adoption is program optimization. So tools can track things and monitor things in real time. It can help you triage populations and, do like a first pass to, remove people from a list if they don't meet the qualifications or if they don't meet the whatever restrictions that you have listed for particular programs. You can start to use AI to take a first pass to whittle down the list and create a more a better list of people who fit the criteria that you have. And it really can help you demonstrate impact more effectively. And so the whole point of AI is to allow us to work smarter, not harder, while keeping our focus on the relationships and the mission. And so if you use AI to do the tasks that are not necessarily relational focused, right? And not as human focused in terms of having that touch that you need for a lot of the things that we do in the organization, then you're freed up to focus on the relationship building, to focus on better service providing in certain areas, depending on what your mission is. So that's really important. But as we talk about using AI and how powerful it is, we have to recognize that it must be implemented responsibly. Nonprofits, more than any other types of institutions or organizations, really rely on the public trust, right? We rely on public trust. And so actions taken by nonprofits can not only impact their particular organization, but it can impact the industry and it can impact donor behavior writ large to really impact how they decide whether or not they want to give, how funders decide what they want to ask for in certain applications or requirements in terms of being one of their grantees and whatnot. So it's really, really critical to align AI with the ethical standards and the values of your organization. And I want to share some guiding principles for responsible and ethical AI use as you do some considering of this. The first one is going to be ask hard questions. So I want to encourage you to challenge your software providers, asking them what biases exist in their tools, doing a little bit of a research to figure that out, right? Google research or however you do your research. And also asking your software providers, how do they safeguard privacy, right? A lot of the software you're already using is integrating AI, even if you haven't deliberately sought out those AI products. And so as an organization that is investing significant resources in these software and products, you have the right to ask questions about privacy, biases, and how their AI makes decisions. All of that is something that you can really ask about. And as a leader, I think it's your responsibility to sort of suss these things out when you're evaluating different tools, right? They want your business, and so they have to be able to answer your questions in a way that is satisfactory to you and that aligns with the mission and the vision and the values of your organization. I want to note one thing here, is that there are AI tools that exist that will use the data that you enter. So whatever you upload, whatever you share, they will use that data to train their algorithms and their models. So we know that there are models out there that do that. There are also tools that do not use your data to train their AI models. And so when you are evaluating AI software, or when you're evaluating the current software you use that has started to integrate AI, you need to figure out which one is the case, right? Is it using your information to train their models? And if it is, what do you want to do about that, right? Do you want to use that, or do you want to use other software? What decisions do you need to make after learning that information? So that is very, very key. The second one is developed and adopt clear AI policies. And these policies should ensure privacy, ethical use of AI, and transparency. So currently, we have 70% of nonprofits that have data use policies, right? That is awesome. We need the data use policies. But nearly 80% of nonprofit organizations lack an organization-wide policy for AI. I really think that even if you are not necessarily using AI at the organizational level, there are employees in your organizations that are using AI. You just may not be aware of it. And so if you do not have a policy, you are not able to shape how your employees are using it, what data they're entering in AI, what are they sharing, and all of that. And so that's going to be very important. So you need to develop a policy, and there are tools to help you develop policies. I can actually share at the end of this, I can send an email out, or you can reach out to me. I can share a few links where they have some samples and some formats to how to create a policy. But you really need an organization-wide policy, because without that, your employees have no guardrails around what they're doing with AI, right? What they're entering in AI and how that data or information can be used within your organization. So chances are someone in your organization is using it, even if you haven't decided as an organization that you will use it. The next thing is that you need to align AI tools with your ethical values and your mission goals. So what are those goals for you? And what are the goals of the AI? There are tools out there that are specifically for nonprofits to help you you input your information, and then you just ask it certain prompts to help you prepare for a new grant application. Do you want to use that kind of thing, right? And in that kind of environment, would you want to make sure that they are not using your data to to train their models? So looking into that. And then the last thing I would say is really learning from real world examples. So leverage your network to find out what organizations are using and implementing AI responsibly and what their outcomes are. So other nonprofit leaders, ask them, hey, are you using AI? What have you been seeing? What's happening here? And learn about that. And then even outside of your network, if you're not able to get the information that you're looking for, there are organizations out there using this, and you can find this by reading articles on the Chronicle of Philanthropy, or reading articles on other blogs and platforms to find out what other organizations are doing. So I just want to share one example. This is not US based, but I think it was really important. So this place in Kenya, an organization in Kenya, is called Jacaranda Health. They use an AI trained help desk to triage questions from expectant parents. So they have pregnant people coming in, and they have this trained help desk to help triage some information. But the thing about their approach is that they are intentionally limiting data to limiting data collection to safeguard the privacy of their patients. And so they're not collecting names and all this. They're collecting a very narrow form of data that's being collected. And then those AI responses are carefully checked by human agents that work at the organization for quality before being shared with any sort of providers and moving them along in the process. So this is them using it for maternal health support, but intentionally collecting minimal data to protect user privacy. And so that is one real example. The takeaway I want you to have here is, use these guiding principles, but start small, right? Start small and measure the results, but staying mission-centered and human-centered is really going to be very important as you think about responsible and ethical AI use. That is the only way you should be using AI responsibly and ethically, right? So making sure you're asking those questions and having policies and aligning things with your mission and vision and ethical values. That's going to be very, very important. So I want to look at just 4 cases at how AI is already driving impact for nonprofits. So the first example that I want to use is St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And so by analyzing donor data, the AI that they were working with identified that storytelling was the most effective outreach tool. And so they were able to use that information with Google Ads, and then they increased their donor acquisition. And so now 25%, I wrote 24, but I should have said 25% of their YouTube donation revenue now comes from new donors. So that is using AI in a way to, figure out how should our messaging be for donors and to get new donors into the fold. The second case that I want to share with you is the National Geographic Society. And so we all know National Geographic, they're going out and doing all this filming and taking photos of nature and animals and all this thing, doing very important work. And so what they ended up invested in was an AI-powered image recognition program to retrieve images for campaigns that they were running. And so this saved hours of staff time. We talked about time being the most precious commodity at a nonprofit organization. Saved hours of staff time instead of having staff go through all these different photos and pick out photos for a campaign. So that is another use case, right? And it really comes down to, what does that particular outcome mean for your organization? So if you're not an organization like the National Geographic Society, having image recognition may not be something that is valuable to you, right? And if you're not doing individual donor outreach like St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, then maybe using AI to identify, what kind of stories are helpful for donors. Maybe that's not the use case for you. It's really about thinking about your particular challenge in your organization that AI can help solve. So I want to shift to the Trevor Project. So one of the challenges that they had was that they had volunteers that they needed to train, but there's only so many people that can do training and all of this, and it creates this bottleneck of volunteers that can't get trained as quickly as you would like them to be trained, right? And so they implemented a chatbot called Riley. And this chatbot is used to train volunteers. Key thing, though, is that is under human supervision. So there are actual humans making sure that the training is going well and is overseeing everything. And so the outcome of that is that they're able to train more volunteers quickly and reducing the bottleneck that they had there. And so what you notice about the use of AI in these areas that I've talked about so far is that they have not replaced staff with AI, right? They have augmented, right? That's a term that you'll hear. They really have used AI to help support the people that were doing the jobs, right? To help them do their jobs more effectively, to help them train more effectively and all of that. So I really want to point that out as a key thing at this point. And then finally, Larkin Street Youth Services. So they use AI integrated tools with data analytics. So they use a tool called Raise by Gravity, and they ended up raising $2 million annually while streamlining their donor outreach. So these four, plus if you go back to the Jacaranda Health example from Kenya, these examples show the power of AI when implemented strategically to solve real pain points. So real problems that are showing up for you day to day or regularly that need to be addressed. So the first thing I want to say again is that AI is not a fad, right? It is not a fad. It is really transforming the way nonprofits work. Not only nonprofits, but nonprofits are really significantly impacted by this. But there are a couple of key unique challenges that nonprofits face with this. And the first one is the digital divide. And so that just means, nonprofits really lack the budgets that for-profit organizations have to experiment with new technological tools like AI. In the for-profit sector, typically they have more money to do those types of things. And so they're able to innovate a little bit more or fail fast to learn something and then move on. And a lot of times in the nonprofit sector, we're not able to innovate or fail fast because we just don't have the resources, right? Or the technical expertise or the budgets to provide for that innovation. And so that is a challenge. And then the second thing I think is shifting donor expectations. Donors are increasingly expecting more of a personalized, efficient experience. And so the key question I have for you as a leader is, where is your organization's biggest pain point today? Take a moment to think about that. Where is your biggest pain point today? So for some of the organizations that I mentioned, for the Trevor Project, their pain point was getting their volunteers trained. For the National Geographic Society, it was at that point making sure they had the right photos and images ready for the campaigns that they were embarking on. So what is your organization's biggest pain point? Because that is where AI can have the most meaningful impact, right? And so maybe it is one of those productivity areas that we talked about when I said that a lot of nonprofits are just using it for productivity. Maybe it is just a productivity thing. Maybe it is just saving time. Or maybe it's something more meaty, like program development or program evaluation, right? So you really get to determine that. But as you think about that, it is critical to stay human-centered and intentional. And solving those pain points, not adding more complexity, not making things more complex than they need to be. So stay human-centered, stay intentional, solve the pain points, but you don't want to add more complexity. You want to find ways in which this can make things easier, not more difficult. If you're finding that it makes things more difficult, then you move on. Then you move on. So moving forward, this is what I really want you to take away today. AI is a powerful tool that can save time, it can enhance relationships, and it can amplify your mission's impact. The nonprofit sector cannot afford to be left behind during this transformative movement. We just cannot afford it. As we move forward, some of the key steps that I encourage you to take is identify a purpose. Answer that question about what is the specific pain point? What is the specific challenge that you're having today that AI can help you address, right? Not completely take over without human oversight, but really can help you address as a leader. And your staff can really be important in helping you identify that. Now, a lot of times you know what the biggest challenges are, but when you talk to your staff, they might tell you where the roadblocks are, where the bottlenecks are, where all of that is, because they are on the ground, they're on the front lines. The second key step is you're going to start small. You need to pilot something that's low risk, right? Pilot something that's low risk and something that's manageable, where you can sort of measure whether or not it's having a good impact for you. So this is going to require you to put on the hat of an experimenter, right? Of a person, of an organization that is going to experiment with something, because AI is going to continue to evolve, right? And so you have to put your beginner's mind on and your experimentation hat on to say, we are going to experiment with this. And I would argue that you need to make sure you identify a group of people at the organization that are going to be working with AI more intentionally. With the turnover that I see in a lot of organizations, you don't want the AI knowledge to rest with one person that ends up taking that knowledge out the door. So you want to identify a group of people that are going to be working with this a little more intentionally, helping you with that pilot, that starting small. And while you do this, you want to engage your team. You want to engage them early and often. You want to address those fears, and you want to provide training to help build that confidence. You want to assuage the fears because people are really afraid. And it's reasonable for them to be afraid because this is technology and an advancement that we haven't really seen in the past. You know, when the cell phone came out, that's like, oh, this is awesome. Computers came out, there's a little bit of fear there. The internet, there's a little bit of fear and people thinking it wouldn't stick around. But these things have had staying power and have evolved over time. I mean, look at how often Apple iterates on their iPhone. It's like every single year they're iterating on it. They're adding something or doing something. And so it's going to be the same with AI. There's going to be shifts and changes. But there are places where you can get started where it's not a huge lift to just get started. The final thing is going to be stay human-centered. Use AI to augment and not replace human work. You want to stay responsible, stay human-centered, stay ethical. This will also help alleviate the fear, as well as being transparent. So if you are transparent, if you are ethical and responsible, if you're asking your software providers those really tough questions and, you know, taking a look, having a small team to take a look at what they say they offer and asking them the hard questions, because sometimes these vendors of these softwares will yes, yes, yes you to say, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we do this. You know, ask the hard questions, ask for the documentation, take a look at it and see if it actually makes sense. That's going to be important. And like I said, have a team of people that are, collaborating with you or within the organization that are really taking a strong, hard look at this. So those are going to be the key steps that I advise that you take at the end of this as a leader in a nonprofit organization. And so I said this quote earlier, I'm going to say it again, is that nonprofits that use AI will replace those that don't use it. So ensure that you are a part of the group that is using it and that is leading